And I think you get a little, there, great, thank you. So welcome to our parent chat. The topic of today is how to set up routines with your child and why they're so important. And we have Ivy Cruz and Rachel Taylor. Can you wave, Rachel? Great. They are two of our early intervention, early childhood special educators, specialists that have worked with us for quite some time. And this is an area that they really know very well. So they're excited to share some tips with you. And I put a plug in for, I know you all know about early childhood cares, but some people that tune in from our Facebook and other places, we are the early intervention, early childhood special education program for Lane County. We are a free public education program. We welcome any people to look us up on the, look at our website, Early Childhood Cares at the University of Oregon.edu, or give us a call if you have any questions about development. That gives you a lot of information about what we do. But we work all over Lane County with any child who's having any kind of delay or disability. So with that, I'm going to turn over the time to, I think, Ivy, you're taking the lead.
All right, I'm just going to start the screen share, and I think Rachel's going to start. I'm going to say that this is the first time I've done a PowerPoint in a while, so I might be a little rusty. But all right. Go for it, Rachel.
All right. So like Judy just said, we are going to be focusing on talking about why routines are important and maybe even like what they are, talking about what we need to, how they can help us and how they can help get through. Sometimes it might be kind of challenging at home with your kids. And I will talk about, I'll go through, before we get into the different areas of what we're going to talk about, I'll talk about our agenda and the different things that we're going to cover. And also we don't have a big live audience, but please, for those of you that are here, if you have any questions or any, just any ideas or things that you've done that have worked well that you'd like to share, we would love to hear what you have to say. So feel free to jump in at any time. At the end, we'll also have some time for questions and seeing if there's any specific problem solving or routines that you want to talk about. Okay, so just a review of our agenda. We are going to talk first about why routines are important. Then we're going to talk about how some different ideas about how to create routines at home. And then after creating them, the next step is thinking about how you're going to teach them. We can have lots of great ideas and visuals and things ready to go. And then they don't teach, it takes some time to really teach them and get the kids used to all of the steps involved. So we'll talk about that and just some different strategies. Then we'll talk about troubleshooting, because we know that even with the best intentions and the best teaching, there's bound to be roadblocks and things that we run into. So we'll talk about some scenarios where problems might come up with implementing the routines or teaching or any parts of it, and have some ideas and things to try. And then we'll end with Q&A and seeing if you have any specific scenarios you'd like to talk about.
And before we get started, we just want to let you guys know that you're not alone. This is kind of a big topic and we're going to cover a lot of ground. And we're going to give you some jumping off points, but I know that your service coordinators and teachers would love to help you with this. This is something they also know a lot about. So please, if this is something you're interested in and you would like help, reach out to your service coordinator. We'll also be here at the end. You can ask questions like Rachel said throughout, and there'll be that Q&A at the end. So if there's specific scenarios or things that aren't clear to you, don't hesitate to reach out and let us know. And there'll be resources at the end of this slide too, a bunch of different handouts that we used. Also, just a reminder that as we go through all of this, to be patient with yourself and with your child. Everybody learns on at their own pace, in their own way. Some people need more or less practice with things. And just because one thing works for one child, that doesn't really mean it's going to work for another child. Or if one routine works really well for a family and you hear that from a friend, that doesn't mean it's going to work with your family, or a routine that we suggest might not fit into your day. So don't feel like these are set in stone or things that you have to do. They're just ideas and jumping off points. Just another tool that you guys can have.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about why we create routines. And these are going to be things that are kind of like how it can benefit you and your family, and what might be the outcomes that you get after going through this process and trying out different routines. When we say routine, I guess it's kind of important to think about before even the why, but what is a routine? And routines can be anything that happens on a regular basis. It could be, we have many routines throughout our day. We might have a routine for getting ready to get out the door in the morning to go to school, for getting ready for bed or bath time, or even transitioning throughout the day and going from things like playtime to cleaning up and having a snack. So lots of routines happen all the time. So one of the benefits, or the reasons why how routines can help, is that they really give a sense of comfort and knowing what to expect, and can really limit stress. Just thinking about kids and how they are experiencing the world, us as grown-ups, we know that knowing how to predict what's going to happen day to day can really help us feel less stressed and more calm. And the same is definitely the case for our little ones. Help to limit power struggles. So those times when it's, those moments where you might be asking your child to do something and they don't want to, and you go back and forth. The nice thing about a routine and the way that you can set it up is that we'll share some strategies about this, but we will, using things like picture schedules or visuals and having steps in place as part of the routine can kind of lead it, versus you being the one to always have to say, this is what we're doing next. We can check our schedule. We can we can ask questions to them about what's going to come next, versus you having to tell them. We can also look through it together. If they're not able to answer those questions, we can look through it together and talk about it together. And routines can make transitions easier. I talked about with things like moving from cleaning up playtime and going into something like snack. We'll talk about ways to use some strategies, like using a timer, using transition warnings before you're moving into a new routine. Routines encourage positive behavior and help teach safety. With the positive behavior, it really gives lots of opportunities for it kind of puts things a structure to our day, and gives lots of opportunities for practice and reinforcing the things that we are hoping to accomplish and hoping to do with our kiddos. And it gives lots of opportunities for you also to give positive feedback to them. And then around safety, that's something that we're thinking about as far as, routines around getting out of the car into a parking lot, having those kind of things that might be dangerous situations, being able to practice those, have those set up so that they're predictable, they happen the same way every time. And the children know it allows them to be more successful in those routines, especially when could be dangerous otherwise. So it's a great opportunity to help with safety and with lots of different, excuse me. And the last thing under the why is it's a great way, it's a great learning tool. So routines can build in things like, depending on what your child's specific goals are, things around language that they might be working on, even things like counting, or, it could even be things with rhyming words, thinking about the way you set up a routine so that it can incorporate things your child, whether it's their IFSP goals or other things that you're working on. And that's also an area that would be awesome to talk to your service coordinator if you were thinking about wanting to try any routines and maybe how to incorporate some of those goals.
Yeah, and I think along with times to learn, it's set times that we have happen every single day. So when we work routines into those times, we can kind of guarantee a time where we're going to be prompted to work on that goal with the child. And we know already that power struggles are going to be reduced during that time because it's a time your child expects. So it kind of really creates an environment where it's great to work on things. For instance, as we're brushing our teeth, maybe mama counts to 10 as I brush each side and we work on our counting goal. Or when it's time for bed, we get to sit down and read a book with each other. And that's a great time to work on language and labeling. And just thinking of all the different ways. We can even work motor things into routines. I'm a teacher and I do a lot of my motor skills while we're doing routines. We do fun little body movements or oral motor movements and things like that as well. So how do we create routines? Now that we know why we need routines, how are we going to do this? First, I think you got to think about your day and think about things that happen regularly. What are the things that we either do each day or that need to get done each day, such as getting ready to leave your house for school? It sounds like you both have preschool kiddos. Nap time's another good one. A bedtime routine is one that I think most families work towards. We can even have mealtime routines. As Rachel said, safety routines. So, getting out of the car in a parking lot and then walking through a parking lot. We can create routines around those things as well. Also, as we're thinking about creating routines, think about times that may not be working well, things that are hard or more challenging. And that may be a good place to start to build a routine, kind of picking one of those times. So pick one time of the day that you would like to work on to start with. We don't need to totally revamp everything and have a million routines where maybe there weren't some in place. We don't want to overwhelm you. So just for the purpose of this, maybe have one routine or one time of day in mind that you would like to create a routine. And as we're thinking of that routine, we really need to break it down into smaller steps. What are the different things that need to happen at this time? And state each step one at a time. So here is just a routine, a visual that I created in 2 seconds. I use visuals with this, like with my own kids often. And when I'm working with kids in the classrooms or preschools, I'll draw routines out like this. We do have fancy visuals, but they're not there when you need them. And doing something like this is quick and easy. And if your kid is able to sit and attend, I find that it's often fun to draw that along with them. I get to draw a picture of my daughter who's got curly hair, right? See my stick figure? That's my daughter. So she loves it when I draw a stick figure and I say, and here's your curly hair. And then she knows that's her, right? So I'm breaking down this bedtime routine. First, we brush teeth, then we get jammies on. Next, we read a book. I used to have a ponytail, so she liked it when I put my ponytail, and then we go to bed. But really breaking it down into manageable steps so we can make it more manageable for us and for our children as well. And as we're creating this routine, here are some things to consider. Really think about your child's developmental level. What is and is not developmentally appropriate for your child. One child may be able to put clothes on all by themselves and they don't need any help. Another child might need a lot of assistance during that time. Think of the level of parental support as well. Are your expectations reasonable? Are we expecting a child who doesn't know how to dress on their own to go and get dressed? And if this is something that you're not quite sure about, this would be a great place to talk to your service coordinator as well, because they can really help you understand development and come up with reasonable expectations. It's also good, so the amount of support that your child may need. It's also good to work in choices so that your child feels like they have a little bit of autonomy as well, and they're a little bit more bought into that. We're going to have that set schedule, and those things aren't choices, right? It's time to brush teeth. That's not the choice, but maybe when we get in there, we get to choose which toothbrush we're going to use, or if we're going to drink warm or cold water afterwards. when we're getting dressed, we're going to go get our pajamas on at bedtime, but maybe we get to choose which pajamas out of 2 pairs that we're going to wear. And then something that I have found works well is to try to make that last step in that routine something fun and enjoyable, something to work towards. Even if getting in bed isn't fun and that's the last part, maybe it's that goodnight hug and kiss that we get, or a little song that we get to sing. But if we're working up to something fun, then we're going to want to keep working through that routine. If that last piece is something we really don't want to do, we're going to have more challenges getting through it overall. And then here's just a couple examples of different schedules that I found online of things that we can create. Here's one I found online. Again, I like this because this is something that you could create on your own. You could draw these out. And this is just a morning routine, somebody breaking it down into snuggling for a minute, using the toilet, changing clothes, eating, putting their dishes away, brushing teeth, getting your bag, and then that last piece is go, right? We're going to go get into the car. Here's one that I've used in the classroom, I've used with my own kids. I'll just take a series of pictures on my phone of them doing that routine. And then we flip through the routine on our phone. And kids often really enjoy flipping through to the next one. It's kind of like a checklist. And what do I do next? You can even, if you're tech savvy, which I'm not, you can create a separate file in your pictures so that you can just open up that file and have all the pictures ready so that you can just scroll through that. Or if you have a computer or a printer, you could take those pictures and then put them in Microsoft Word and create just a picture checklist too. And this is something kids really like because it's them doing those things. Here are some just schedules that we have made. We have a whole library of schedules, and we can work with you, talk to your service coordinator to create a schedule that works for your family. So we can make these. If making one yourself isn't something you're interested in, or you think you need something a little sturdier, or you'd like more help with it, again, we can do this for you. Here's another mini schedule. So sometimes we have that bigger schedule, right? We're gonna read story and then brush teeth, but maybe your child needs more help with toothbrushing, and your service coordinator can help you break down those toothbrushing steps so that we limit any power struggle or any challenge we have around that individual piece of the schedule. We call these mini schedules. We kind of embed them within bigger schedules. And then this is something that Rachel and I just wanted to share with you. It's kind of a cool resource that's online. It's through Sesame Street. Let's see if I can pull it up here. There's daily routine cards on Sesame Street. So if you click that, if you get that website, and Rachel, maybe you could put the website in the chat right now so that they've got it. You click on that. Oops. And you launch daily routine cards, and they have a whole slew of routines that they've already created, 2 pages of them. The second page is more kind of home routines, morning routines, bedtime routines, going to the store, crossing the street. They even have a schedule for brushing your teeth that you could use as well.
Cookie Monster is getting ready to go to bed.
It's
Let's
really
see what he does first.
It's really nice because it's something you can watch with your child. It's like a social story that will take you through. Uh-oh. It's not working on my.
Cookie Monster gets into the bathtub of warm water and washes his whole body. Then his mommy helps him get out and dry off with a towel. All clean. Cookie Monster's mommy helps him put on his pajamas. Cookie Monster brushes his teeth. Cookie Monster uses the potty. Cookie Monster gets into bed. It's time for a bedtime story. Cookie Monster falls asleep. Good night.
They're just really sweet and very child friendly, and they're engaging and fun for the kiddos. And also like this part right here, where you can make the routine fit your life a little bit better. So say you brush your teeth before you get into the bathtub. You can make it work that way. Or maybe you just don't take a bath every night. You can get rid of that. And it will make the story that way. And you can also then get a printout.
So Ivy, I wanted to give you a heads up. From our view, we can't see the individual cards, but
Okay.
just so everybody knows that you can, once you click on these, when you're on the website, it's a little tricky when we're on PowerPoint to see it. But when you're on the website, it gives you options for how to personalize them and kind of go through and make them fit for you.
Thank you for letting me know that, Rachel. Yeah, so you can really personalize it, and you can get a printout, so you can print that out just to have a schedule to hold on to, which can be really helpful as well. So were you not able to see the story at all?
We can see the four
Okay.
the 4 steps of the morning routine.
Bummer. Okay, well, it actually takes you through a story with little animation in it, and you can click through it on your own pace too.
Yeah, I could tell.
Perfect. Oh, good. I'm glad. Right.
Okay. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how we teach these routines. So like I said earlier, taking some time to figure out what parts of your day you want to try, and then breaking it down, thinking about the steps of the routine, and then figuring out if there's any visuals that can go with it to help support it. All of those things happen, and then it's time to teach it. And that can be, that's obviously for success and being able to have our children and everybody at home be successful with this, taking the time to taking lots of time with this and realizing that it's not always fast or easy, but we're going to talk about some specific tips on how you can teach the routines. Okay. So when you're introducing a new routine, or even if you're practicing the same one you've been working on, thinking about where your kind of the level that you're at with your children when you're talking with them, whether you're using words or showing them pictures, really trying to get down to their level, be face to face, and have their attention before you start talking or trying to show them the parts of the routine. And I love that picture of a mom and her little baby face to face. And a tip that can go along with that is sometimes your child might not necessarily respond when you do get face to face with them. And if they're continuing to do what they're doing and they don't seem to be ready to kind of like look up at you or engage with you right away, you can kind of model or imitate the things that they're doing. So you can notice what they're doing and kind of join in what they're doing, which is a good way to gain their attention before you try to start showing them or talking to them about a routine. So as you're introducing it and talking about the steps, really trying to use positive and clearly stated directions. So simple language. Sometimes I do this as well, and I really have to kind of slow down sometimes and think about, there's sometimes that we really want to talk a lot and use a lot of rich language and give our kids that language modeling. When we're teaching routines, keeping it simple and straightforward is more helpful. It gets them to focus on what exactly it is that we're trying to teach. So looking at that bedtime routine chart that's on this slide. So if the first step of getting ready for bed is take bath. So just using those simple words, time for take bath, or look, take bath, first take bath, then brush teeth, and doing them, breaking it down one at a time. Sometimes showing kids actual objects can be more helpful as well. If just showing them a picture of a bathtub or saying bath isn't effective at first, you can grab something that they would recognize from the bath, whether it's a bath toy, a towel, a washcloth, something like that they're familiar with, and pairing that with that simple language of take bath. The same with any other steps in your routine. Also, this can be a tough one. It seems natural for some reason for us to ask kids questions when we're talking about what we want them to do. So really trying to avoid asking them, are you ready to take a bath? Or are you ready to brush your teeth? Instead, just stating what you do want them to do instead of asking it in a question form. So the visual schedules can be super helpful, like we've talked about a lot. And I think we can't, I think just remembering that all the different ways, I love the one that Ivy, one of my favorite, this is kind of a, just such an easy one as far as we usually do have like our cell phones, if we're using the pictures, that can be a go-to before you have time to even talk to your service coordinator. If you were like, I want to try this tomorrow, think about one simple routine, take the pictures. For example, if it was, with this routine of a bedtime chart, you could take a picture of the kid, tonight or tomorrow in the bathtub, brushing their teeth, putting on the jammies, reading a story, and giving hugs. I love that one. Ivy, do you have anything else to add to that?
Nope, I think you got it. I think just, when it's not a question, it's a statement rather than asking, do you want to take a bath? Or let's take a bath, okay? Saying things like, it's time to take a bath. It's time to brush teeth. So that's really clear that that's not something they can say yes or no to, because not all kids want to do everything we want them to do. And when we make it a choice, then it kind of gives an impression that they can choose not to do it as well.
So these are just some other tips to think about when you are working on teaching the routines at home. That try to make it fun, give lots of praise. I think that's what that picture represents. Just really giving acknowledgement to any attempt that they make and just really being positive, making it fun. The consistent part is super important. Really approaching it the same way every time so that the steps are the same and you're doing it as much as possible in the same way so that the child knows they can predict what's going to happen, and it can help with them being able to start to do some of those things more independently. First then language is really helpful for if there's resistance from the child to doing something as part of the routine, if they don't want to, or they're saying no, setting it up in a first then, where first is the thing that you're wanting that they need to do as part of the routine, and then follow it up with something that they would look forward to or you think that they would like as something kind of a reward after they do that part. So for example, let's see, you could say, I have something. So first wash your hands and then you get your snack that you're so excited for. First, like with brushing teeth, first brush teeth, then I can give you a nice minty kiss because you're, what are some other examples, Ivy? So with dressing, maybe you could talk about what's going to happen after they get dressed. So first get dressed, then you get to pick milk or juice with breakfast. Mm-hmm. So that's something that you can do, that first then language, and that's helpful in lots of different, in many different ways. But as far as routines go, definitely when there's an area that might be, the child might resist a little bit.
And when you make it fun, think about some fun games or songs. You can make a song up about anything. It doesn't have to be a set song that you've learned. It can be like, you're brushing your teeth, you're brushing your teeth. Just adding music to your thoughts can be super fun and something that kids really enjoy. And with that praise, it can be big praise, like in this picture, we brushed our teeth, right? So that they have that part of the routine to look forward to as well.
Yeah, I love that. I like the idea of, with singing and not having to have a specific song. Another idea with that is if your child does have a particular song that they love, just kind of using the same tune of it. I find myself going back to Let It Go a lot. Brush your teeth, brush your teeth. Anything that might give them that buy-in or be that they might see as fun. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I said we the troubleshooting part is going to be thinking about just kind of some problem solving ideas around things that might come up as challenges when you're working on either making or teaching the routines.
And as we talk about troubleshooting, as with parenting and teaching, we need to remember our own health and to take care of ourselves. Things can get really frustrating despite all of our best setup and all of our best intentions, the great language we're using, the fun things that we've embedded. Our kids are still autonomous little beings who developmentally are supposed to be pushing those boundaries and trying to figure out what they can and can't do and how they're going to be their own independent self. So we need to remember to just take a step back and breathe sometimes. Recognize how we're feeling. When I'm feeling really frustrated with my children, sometimes I forget to do this and it just makes it worse because I'm frustrated, they're frustrated and mad. And if I just remember to take a step back and take a breath, clear my mind for a second, recognize how I'm feeling, and then re-enter that situation, it can be so helpful. And remembering to be patient with yourself, especially when you're starting a new routine. You're learning as well as your children. You guys are learning together what works and doesn't work and how to make this happen. So really, really remember that patience and self-love. And you can do this. Rachel mentioned consistency. Routines take consistency, especially to the start as we're learning these. So just keep trying and keep on chugging along because you'll get there. And then also, as we're struggling with our children, remembering to encourage your child. Are you giving them enough praise? If something's really not working, step back. Am I continually telling them what to do or what they're not doing right? Maybe we need to start noticing all those little things that they are doing right. You know, maybe when they're in the bathroom, brushing teeth is really hard, but hey, they made it in the bathroom to brush teeth. That's amazing, right? Or they held their toothbrush up to get toothpaste on it. They may be having a hard time putting it in their mouth, but they made it to the part of the routine where we're brushing teeth. And I find personally, not only is my child happier when I notice those things, I'm happier because I'm noticing the things that are working more than the things that aren't working. Another thing to do is just ignore behaviors when they occur as much as possible, and then reteach that expectation calmly. So maybe you say, time to brush teeth. Your child runs into the bedroom. You're just going to kind of follow them into the bedroom. And then, oh, we're going to the bathroom. We're not going to make a big deal about the fact that they ran away. We're going to notice that they ran away, help them into the bathroom, and then start from there again. Sometimes challenging behaviors are there as a way to avoid that situation. So we kind of just want to, yep, that's not going to work for right now. This is what we're going to do. And I'm going to give you lots of attention for doing what we're supposed to be doing during this routine. And following this routine is how you get my attention and how we have lots of fun together. Rachel, I can't remember if you were going to do this part or I was going to do this part. Oh, never mind. So when your child really isn't understanding, it can be helpful to restate that expectation and check to make sure your child understands. Maybe the way that we're teaching is unclear. Maybe we're using too many words. Maybe they're just not understanding. So using those pictures or those objects, and then maybe checking. So we're going to go brush our teeth. What are we going to do now? And maybe they say brush teeth, or maybe they look at you like, I have no idea. So then that's an opportunity to, oh, I didn't make that clear. I'm going to reteach that. Also, giving transition warnings. These are really, really powerful. And I almost feel like maybe we should have put those up at the start of the slide. But if I am doing something and somebody comes up and tells me to stop doing that right now and go do something else, I personally can tell you what my response is most likely going to be, especially if it's to do something I don't really want to do. So I think it's only kind to give our children warning before we're going to do something. So before it's time for that bedtime routine and brushing teeth, we're going to say, hey, in 2 more minutes, we're going to brush our teeth. 2 more minutes to play, and then we're going to brush our teeth. 2 more minutes to watch this show, then we're going to brush our teeth. And you can do things like set timers. We can use sand timers. The timers on our phone are really fun. For a while, my kids loved to pick the sound of the timer when it went off. So one that my son picked, he loved cats, was a cat meowing. And so every time the timer would go off, I'd be like, do we have another cat? And they'd say, no, it's time to brush teeth, right? So they got to choose that timer, and we got to make it a fun, silly routine to start that bedtime routine. The other thing is to make sure to give enough time. When we try to rush through transitions, I know we all have busy lives, especially I find the morning routine is always a challenge in my house because we've got places to go and people to see and things to do, and we all want to get just those last few minutes of sleep. But when I wake up just a little bit early, or when I start that bedtime routine just a little bit earlier, and we have plenty of time to finish it, so nobody's feeling stressed or pushed for time. I'm not trying to rush them through things. I'm giving them plenty of time to try to do it on their own. All power struggles go way down, and their learning also goes up because they have more time to figure those things out for themselves. And we have more time to do those fun, silly pieces in the meantime, because we're not rushing through it and lose time to do those fun things that we look forward to. Rachel, is there anything else that you would like to add to any of this? Nope.
Nope, I don't think so. I think we're good with that one. Okay, so Ivy just talked about some troubleshooting things to try if there's challenges with teaching the routine. So if things like making sure you have enough time and giving warnings, if you're trying those things and it's still difficult, or there's still challenges that are coming up, it might be helpful to take a look at whether it's a certain part of that routine, a certain step, or the whole thing in general, and looking at whether it might be too difficult, or if your child might need some specific support with some of those things. For example, if you are thinking about bath time, if bath continues to be something that's really a struggle in the child, if your child is just really upset or just seems really to be having a hard time around bath time, thinking about like, what are some things that are happening during that time that might be causing them to be upset or stressed or having a hard time with it. This is a good time to think about some different sensory experiences that are a part of it that might be challenging potentially for a child. I had a family that I worked with that did, this mom did such an awesome job of being a detective around bath time for her child. And he was having, he was screaming and didn't want washed and all of these things. And it was really stressful. And she started looking at and realizing that some of the things around bath time, like the certain smell of the soap, he really didn't like it. And she got soap that was fragrance free. And that seemed to help. And then the washcloth that she used, finding ones that were really soft. So there were several different things about the actual bath that seemed to be unpleasant for her kiddo. And so making those changes really helped. So that's just one example of how different sensory needs or, sensory sensitivities could play into it. And it's something to think about. Also, we talked a little bit about this, but if you're going through a bedtime routine and you're doing brush teeth, read a book, get in bed, something like the brush teeth, Ivy talked about this some, there's a lot of things involved with brushing teeth. So that might be, one that you can break down into those more individualized steps to really teach that specifically. And then also just thinking about the way that the way that you're saying it and making sure that it's clear and simple language, just kind of rechecking that.
And then just going back as we went through all of these different pieces, going back to that slide we looked at from the start, just remembering that you're not alone in this, that your service coordinator would love to help you with this piece. It's something, again, that they're highly trained in, and they have lots more ideas than we put here. And especially if there's a specific part of that routine that's challenging, that would be a great time to problem solve with them as well. And now that we've given you all this information and you may be scratching your head and have lots of questions, I love this visual here because I am not a tech person. And after a lot of these trainings, this is usually how I'm feeling. Like I'm just staring at this screen and I have so many questions and I'm not sure what to do. So we want to give you guys an opportunity now, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, to bring them up if you feel comfortable or would like to.
Maybe we could stop sharing the screen and see each other. That'd be great.
That's a brilliant idea, Judy. There we go.
So I have a question. We have how we make it work to be able to go to school 4 days a week in daycare is that his schedule is different throughout the week. And I think that's where I struggle, is how to kind of prepare him. Like Monday and Tuesday is one set of like routines. Wednesday, Thursday is another set of routines, and Friday is yet another routine. And what is the best way to kind of prepare him for each kind of different routine as we go through the week, if that makes sense?
Definitely. I've got some ideas, Rachel. I'm sure you do too, if you
Yeah,
want.
go ahead and then I'll follow up.
So kids can be flexible. That's just a part of life. So teaching that and having different routines like that can also be pretty important and a valuable part of learning and growing. Having something like a weekly calendar can be helpful, where you just have a picture of where you're going each day. So, and you can talk about it the night before or the morning of, so your kiddo can start feeling a little bit of control and understanding what's going on. And then you can have those individual routines for each of those days. So today we're going to preschool. Let's see what we do when we go to preschool. Today we go to daycare. Let's see what we do when we go to daycare. Did you have anything to add to that, Rachel?
No, I was going to say something really similar. I like that idea of having, a more basic, just where they're going to be, pictures to be able to review that. And then if you do have some of those steps of like even just the getting ready part for those different scenarios, if they're different on different days of the week, but it sounds like they're pretty consistent week to week, that they all happen. So just kind of the nice thing is, once you have, whether it's a visual or even just drawing out simple pictures of your steps, you'll have that to refer back to. So maybe, having the simple pictures of where they're at that day and then reviewing it. I like that idea. You can talk about it the night before, at dinner, or bedtime.
And
I don't know, is that something you've tried, or does that sound like something? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I like the idea of doing a calendar. We typically talk about it, try to do it the night before. Sometimes it's in the car. But after these breaks of like Thanksgiving break, and now we're at Christmas break, kind of getting back into the routine can be a struggle. And like 2 days a week, he has to go to great grandma's house to get on the school bus to go to school. And so he's like, I want to stay home. And so I've been trying to like talk about it the night before, but maybe having a calendar where we have pictures might be even a little more helpful.
Yeah, and then that you can refer back to also, oh, I know you want to stay home, but look, the calendar says that today this is what you do. So again, it's not me. We're not going to have to struggle between the two of us. This is the calendar. This is what we're doing. And that can be really
But just to follow up with that, would you suggest starting it maybe after Christmas break, since we have like only another week and a half of school?
Yes, that's great.
Before we, start the routine again.
Yeah, you could do that, or you could start just with, the great grandma days, or however that looks. And then he'll already have that calendar in mind. And so when it does change, then he's already going to have learned how to use the calendar. And so it's going to be a little bit more second nature.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And a similar strategy can be helpful for, it does get really tricky for kids sometimes when we have the breaks, and that's an unexpected thing and a big change in their routine. Maybe even introducing pictures, of looking at your week when there are days off, and like showing them ahead of time, like, wow, we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 5 days at home. Look, here's our home. All of these days are at home. Or if they're going to be going to somebody else's house. You know, and if it's family or if you have the opportunity to take some pictures ahead of time, that can be helpful. And even if they're not printed out, like we talked about, showing them on the phone. But I think that having something to help them understand, even on those times when they're not at school, what to expect can be really helpful.
And even just taking a piece of paper and separating it and like doing one day at a time to start, and drawing it out. Think about something that's different between your house and great grandma's house. And that can be what represents the two different things. If, like it doesn't have to be a work of art. It really can just be something simple that your child watches you draw. And I find that those speak really well to kids as well.
You know, really, as you're talking, what I'm hearing too, and this is something, your routines just are not super regular routines. I mean, it's sort of routine, but one day is one thing, another day is another thing. And so if your son enjoys things that are daily, like brushing teeth, going to bed, that it doesn't really matter if you go to school or not, and gets used to how you're presenting them, it becomes a little bit easier then to present things in a way that are different at different times. Because I really understand what you're saying. Life just isn't sometimes routine, and for him to get that visual picture. So that's a way to also, I think, help get that process a little more familiar when you don't have to vary it so much.
Yeah, so if you can figure out things that are the same each day and try to use those to create that routine for the morning, so then it doesn't matter what he's doing or where he's going, we're still going to have a very similar routine. There may be some things that tweak. Maybe he eats breakfast at home on some days and with great grandma on other days, but some of those core elements are going to stay the same.
We have another minute. I don't know, Jeremy, did you have any questions?
Not so much questions. I just had more suggestions for Megan, but it was basically what Ivy and Rachel were saying. But what we do is we have a little like Excel sheet, and I have it as my phone background. And that's just like an easy, quick way for me to, just refer to like, all right, what are we doing? Around 9 is exercise time. So we have like exercise, cardio, yoga, and, different things like that. And we have a time for outings, like granted, if it's not raining, cats and dogs. But, going to the library, going to a park or things like that. And just having those little kind of routine things. And I was also thinking about the routine cards. So if there's things where in the day-to-day your routine is changing, you can really kind of help them kind of get a grasp on like, there is actually, these are the things that are going to remain the same every day. So like the little routine charts for bedtime, or you can have one, just having it like in the bathroom or something like that, brush teeth, bath time or whatever. And just having them in like little, 3x5 note cards or something like that, in specific spots that kind of relates to the task. And that would, that kind of helps, I would think.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing, Jeremy. It's great to hear what some things that parents are doing or seeing, having some success with. That's awesome.
Yeah.
We do have a couple resources. I don't know what the best way to share those would be. If you guys are interested, we could post just this one page on Facebook if that would work the best. I could send that to Judy. Is there anything else that we can help you guys with?
Nothing comes to mind.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you
you.
very much. It was great having you guys here. We really appreciate it.
That was great, Ivy and Rachel. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate all the other suggestions. So it's really important to share what's working in your home might really help someone else. So yeah,
I agree.
Awesome.
Every little bit helps.
Yes.
Right. We're in this together. Nobody is alone.
Yes. Yeah.
I will just say, have a really good evening, and thank you for joining the Parent Chat at Early Childhood Cares.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.